the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, welcome back, Daylight Burners. Happy Monday. I'm coming to you pre-recorded. This is Sunday evening, March 22nd, 2026. But this is the Friggin Farm Ranch Report for Monday, March 23rd. Top of the show, Packers and Feeders just got a fresh reality check. March 1 cattle on feed report showing tighter overall numbers, but a big jump in February placements, while fat and feeder futures kept grinding higher off at the firm cash. On the other side of the ledger, corn eased back to the mid 460s, and let me change my layout here. Okay, so on the other side, corn eased back to the mid 460s, and wheat took another hit, taking a little pressure off the feed bill, even as the really not good snowpack keeps stacking the risk of fire and water for later on this year. So for today's show, it's kind of it's like a margin tug of war. Cattle are pretty strong, grain's a little cheaper, but weather's a big it's a big wild card for sure. So on March 1st, cattle on feed report shows the on feed inventory at 11.5 million head, same as last year. So showing that the supplies are still really tight. Not a big surprise there. February placements ran roughly 4% over a year ago, at a 1.61 million head, above pre-report guesses. So that's a notable shift from the shrinking pipelines story. If the placements are higher, that means a smaller herd yet, I guess. So it's not great. Marketings were 7% below last year, but doesn't. So I mean, the cattle herd's low. That's kind of the long and short of that. So the combo there with the smaller total of on feed, but the higher recent placement. So the front end stays current, and Packers are going to have cattle to work with going into the summer. Even if the longer term cow herd is still short in supply. Markets had been pricing in a very tight supply picture. So this report is not strongly bearish by itself, but it trims. It kind of pokes a hole in the balloon on the upside enthusiasm for deferred contracts. If these higher placements continue like they have been. So for cow-calf guy and the backgrounder, it keeps your leverage decent for a while, but it shows that the feedlots are still willing to reach for cattle at the right weight. rather than leaving their pens empty. So it gives you some leverage, but for feeders though, the higher placements means that there's more competition and probably still good calf and yearling prices for at least for the near term. But it also says you can't assume that the packers are going to be starved for cattle forever when they're looking at their late summer and fall supply. So today's market, cattle was up, grains backed off. Live cattle futures finished the week higher. So contracts in the low 170s. That's not right. April gaining roughly 3 on the week, backed by a cash trade. 235 to 236, both in the north and the south. Feeder cattle were in rally mode. The front end feeder contracts up about $8 on the week. Buyers stayed pretty aggressive with the placements being high. Corn futures settled at 465. On March 20th. It was down about 1% on the day, but still up several percent over the last month. Soybeans and wheat both faded with double-digit losses. So it's decent news for the feeders. Fat and feeder strength on a softer corn close indicates that the trade remains comfortable. Owning cattle and believes that beef demand and packer capacity will support current price levels in the near term. Corn's pullback looks more like a pause inside just a little hiccup in a short-term rally, driven in part by fund buying rather than a fundamental shortage, which means that the price direction can go opposite pretty quickly if the narrative on the weather changes or the money flow flips. For feedlots, the board plus firm cash keeps break evens workable on the current inventory, but it leaves not much room for error if corn gets higher again and box beef backs off. Risk management on new placements should probably be deliberate, not just as an afterthought thing. For ranchers selling calves, a stronger feeder board backed by the the easier corn improves your bargaining power. For those buying feed, it's a good time to consider getting some corn now before the funds partially push it through resistance again. So on the grains, the corn still is firm, and then the beans and the wheat kind of heavy. Corn's sitting 460 after Friday, but it's up noticeably month over month. Global supplies are still considered ample after a record 23-24 production. Soybeans and wheat both came under pressure going into Friday's close. Soybeans dropped multiple sessions in a row, and Kansas City and Chicago wheat saw double-digit losses, given back earlier rallies tied to the weather and export talk earlier in the week. So corn's rally off the lows with big global stocks suggests that the money flow and positioning are key drivers, not a real shortage. So any shift in fund sentiment over a new crop weather storyline can really swing the market pretty quick. Wheat slide on the weak export demand and long liquidation, plus soybeans also getting hit. Keeps a lid on the broader feed complex for now, and reduces some of the immediate pressure on multi-ingredient rations. Come back to that. For cattle operations buying corn or mixed rations, this kind of argues for a layered approach. Don't panic buy all your feed at once, but don't assume that corn's going to stay in the mid 4s through the summer. In the small grain country, the wheat sell-off tightens your margins and may push more acres toward feed grains or alternative crops. So that's eventually going to influence the local feed availability and the basis there. Moving on, we got fire and we got weather. We got bad snowpack and looking for some setting up for some nasty fire seasons. So western snowpack is running at some of the weakest levels in about 4 decades, heading into spring. So big chunk of the Sierra Nevada and big chunks of Arizona, New Mexico, and Oregon are under 75% of normal. And some of them are under 50. Recent storms have added snow in spots, but mainly in areas that we're not the worst off or we're already behind. So the overall snow drought picture when it comes to fire and water supply remains pretty well the same. So it's still pretty droughty, pretty dry. The thin snowpack means less water running into rivers and ditches and reservoirs, and it's gonna mean not as much of a green up in your big grazing regions. And that sets the stage for earlier and potentially way more intense fire season across big chunks of the West. Agencies are warning that below average snow combined with the warm temperature increases the risk that fine fuels dry out early, raising the odds that otherwise routine lightning or human-caused ignitions can turn into big fire real quick. For places out in Nevada and across across the Mountain West, this kind of really ramps up your planning for your spring turnout, your stocking rates, and then your backup pasture, lease options, all that, all that, and you got to go through now and not put it off till midsummer. So it also really puts an emphasis on your preparedness and and readiness. So all your equipment, your water sources, coordinating with your neighbors, getting your insurance and grazing permits all lined out before the first red flag fire pattern gets here on us. So get ready. Looks like it could be dry. Like I said, this they say this weather pattern is pretty unpredictable. So but high likelihood of extremes one way or the other. So look out for that. Next slide. So that going back to on the fire end, coming back to the Nebraska fires, last week burned the total acreage as of yesterday, or I guess this morning when I was putting this presentation together, 820,000 acres, over 820,000 acres in the Sandhills are gone, wiping out grazing country that normally supports about 35,000 mama cows. The Morrill fire alone burned 640 acres or more, and it's starting to approach full containment. Several other large fires, including Cottonwood and Road 203 fires, have been reported at significantly less than 100% contained. So still pretty nasty out there. But this represents the loss of months and probably years of grass and stored forage, extensive damage to fence, water lines, handling facilities, and this is right before you're turning out. It's Brandon season is approaching pretty quick, and yeah, you're getting ready to turn out, and now you got nothing to turn out to, and if there was some grass saved, your fence is probably gone. Your water lines are. It's a rough time there in Nebraska. So and meanwhile, they're still got the fires going on. So it's all hands on deck there. Please check with any of your friends from Nebraska in that area for who to donate to, what to donate, how to help out, because I know that if you can donate directly locally, that goes a lot further. You cut through a lot of the red tape and the bullshit. So get in touch with anybody that you know that runs cattle in Nebraska, or even anybody that you know in that part of the world that's affected. Get in touch, see how you can help and where to donate. So even outside Nebraska, this is going to tighten your hay and grazing lease markets across the central and northern plains. It's going to increase your competition for summer grass, and it's going to push your delivered hay bids way higher, I imagine. For individual outfits, this is a big blinking red light that says check your insurance coverage, check your fire breaks, all your stock water, continuous grazing plans in case you do have to move them during a fire. Like, all that stuff comes into play once again. So it's it's yeah, it's a tough situation. So my prayers are with all you guys, and I said, if anybody needs some help with surveying the damage after it's done, let me know, and I'll do what I can to help out. So on the policy side and the risk side, crop insurance and Western water money. So USDA's expanding access to risk protection rule for the 2026 crop year updates prevented planting rules under the 1 in 4 standard by removing the prior requirement that ground must have been insured in that period. Land now needs to have been planted and harvested or adjusted for loss in at least one of the last 4 years. So it removes. So you don't even have to. It needs to have been planted and harvested or adjusted for loss in at least one of 4 years. Now you don't have to do that. So in parallel, the Bureau of Reclamation and Interior have announced roughly $889 million in funding for Western water infrastructure, including storage, canal, and conveyance projects in multiple Western states. I'll come back to that in a minute. I don't know what happened to my slide on this, but anyway, so this prevented planting change makes it easier to maintain coverage on marginal or rotated acres, especially in flood-prone or drought-stressed fields where planting history is uneven, reduces some administrative barriers to risk protection. The water infrastructure funding targets projects. The water infrastructure funding targets projects that can directly affect how much water actually reaches irrigation districts and rural communities in dry years, which carries extra weight with snowpack already well below the normal. Producers who run farm ground alongside cattle should review acres with their crop insurance agents this spring. Some fields that were difficult to keep covered under the old interpretation may now qualify more easily. On the water side, the outcomes will depend on which local projects get proposed and funded. Pipeline storage or delivery upgrades in a producer's district could be the difference between severe cutbacks and having enough water for hay and on the water side, I had to refined my notes. On the water side, the outcomes will depend on which local projects get proposed and funded. Pipeline storage or delivery upgrades in a producer's district could be the difference between severe cutbacks or having enough water for hay and limited pasture in a dry year. Okay, so now we'll go back to the slides. There's this deal on the broadband uncertainty. So there was this rural broadband push under Biden. Almost nothing happened, and it's crazy now, especially with Trump in office, and him and Elon Musk being homies. Like, I don't know why that Starlink hasn't been a huge part of the rural broadband rollout, because it works really good, and it works in places that nothing else will. You don't even really have to be on the grid. Like, you just got to have some sort of generator or electric power there, but you don't even have to be on the grid. You could have solar panels on your cabin out in the middle of on top of a mountain, and as long as you have clear view of the sky, you can use that Starlink. So I don't know why that hasn't been a huge part of the rural broadband push, but this is the government we're talking about, so why would they do something that makes so much damn sense? But it affects this huge push for like precision agriculture, with whether it be the auto steer on your tractors. The drones are not necessarily the same thing because they run off a satellite. But you have like the collars, the virtual fencing collars. You have all the collars and the ear tags for the dairy cattle that are. It's all really crazy. And then how much of a push towards technology in agriculture there has been, and I think some of it's really good, some of it's pretty scary, some of it I don't know, but it's pretty wild, and all of that stuff takes internet access and like good fast internet. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. So I had an interview with with Halter, one of the virtual fencing companies. I've interviewed with 3 of the 4 main ones here in the U.S. No luck yet. I'm wondering how much this podcast has had to play in that. Go back and listen to some of the rank old episodes. Oh well, that's okay. But I saw that Peter Thiel just dumped like $200 million into them. So I wonder. I'm just curious how this all plays out in the future. I don't have a whole lot of predictions because this stuff moves real fast. And being in the feedlot for as long as I was, I realized like how much I missed out on, and in the wider, broader beef cattle world as it is. Just being in my little cocoon, even with all the people that I talk to in the ranching world through this show, like I've missed out on a lot of stuff, just not being aware of being kind of isolated in my little area. So, anyways, that's something to look at going forward. Key takeaways from the episode as we get ready to wrap up. Our on-feed numbers stayed just under last year, basically the same, but the February placements jumped 4%. keeping the near-term cattle pipeline fuller than the short forever narrative implies, but like I don't know. That's a weird situation. I don't know that it bodes well, but we shall see. Fats and feeders rallied into the weekend on a solid mid 230 cash basis. While the corn eased back into the mid 460s, improving the current feeder margins. Corn is still up sharply over the last month with funds active, so feed costs remain one weather or sentiment shift away from another leg higher. We'll see if Trump starts bombing power plants there in Iran, and if they indeed just close the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely. It sounds like the Houthis are itching to get back in the action. They're in Yemen, which is on the Red Sea, which leads into the Persian Gulf through the Straits of Hormuz, and so that is all continues to be a very active, dicey situation, and not sure how that's going to end up. And I'm praying for the best. I really am. I'm rooting for this to work, but I'm highly skeptical. Highly skeptical. Soybeans and wheat faded into the end of the week, helping cap the broader feed complex. But the tightening margins for wheat growers it's tightening margins for the wheat growers and influencing their planting decisions. Western snowpack remains pretty poor, and recent storms have not really fixed the deficit. They've helped out people that don't need the help as much as others, but that's kind of how it goes. But that's setting up for an early high-risk fire season and tighter water for grazing and irrigation across a large chunk of the West. The Nebraska Sandhills, that just deleted the grazing for somewhere around 35,000 head of cows. And we'll probably tighten the hay and grass markets beyond the immediate fire zone and going into the near and probably midterm future. USDA's insurance tweak and new Western water money are two policy shifts that directly affect how producers manage crop risk and future water availability. So that's something to keep an eye on. And as we close out on this day in history, March 22nd, 1908, the author Louis L'Amour was born in Jamestown, North Dakota, the youngest of 7 children in a small farming and railroad community along the James River. He worked as a professional boxer, a miner, a lumber camp hand, a merchant marine, and later as an Army officer in World War II, before becoming the prolific author of more than 100 Western and frontier novels and short story collections that we all know him for. So, tip of the cap to Louis L'Amour. I'm sure I've told this story on here before, but when I was up in Montana working on the IX ranch, I bought a bunch of Louis L'Amour novels for a penny. And I can't tell you the exact number. I don't recall. But I bought them off of Amazon for a penny, and they charged me $3.99 to ship them. So it was a $4 book that I paid $4, but the seller only got a penny. On this day on March 22nd, 1933, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Cullen-Harrison Act, legalizing 3.2% beer and light wine and beginning the rollback of national prohibition. In 1993, March 22nd, 1993, Intel released its first Pentium microprocessor. It's a major step in computing performance that underpins modern precision ag and range management technology. On this day, So for Monday, on March 23rd, 1775, Patrick Henry delivered his famous "Give Me Liberty" or "Give Me Death" speech in Richmond, Virginia, helping push the American colonies towards open rebellion against Britain. Patrick Henry is one of my favorite of the founding fathers. He was a fiery dude from Virginia, and I was a big fan. On March 23rd, 1806, the Lewis and Clark expedition began its return journey from the Pacific Ocean and back to the U.S. interior, completing the first U.S. overland expedition to the West Coast. On March 23rd, 1868, the University of California was founded by the Organic Act, creating the land-grant institution that later became a major agricultural research and extension center for the West. UC Berkeley is also known as like kind of the birthplace of the hippie movement. But for all of California's weirdness that it's known for now, it's got a deep agricultural tradition, and the University of California was the first institution there in the state. So on March 23rd, 1880, John Stevens patented an improved grain crushing flour mill process that increased flour output and efficiency by roughly 70%. Wow. Advancing modern grain milling. And on March 23rd, 1933, the German Reichstag passed the Enabling Act, which granted Adolf Hitler the sweeping emergency powers and effectively transformed his chancellorship into a complete and total dictatorship. Was perpetrated by the Reichstag fire, which was set by I think it was a Belgian or a Dutch anarchist or a communist, something like that. Yeah, but it set the wheels in motion for the German Nazi Party to take control, and the rest is history, just like this episode. So thank you all for tuning in. Please make sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, all that happy horse shit. And for everybody who is a subscriber on Patreon, I will be sending out a note, but I'm going to cancel the Patreon deal, and I just don't like that platform very well. It's it does good for the paywall, but the platform itself kind of sucks. So I'm going to move over to Substack. I'll be so all these episodes you can listen to on Substack for if you subscribe as a paying member, you'll get to listen to them ad free, and I will have the transcripts with all the links also in there, and I will try to also do some writing with that as well. So that my Substack page is, I think it is burnindaylight.substack.com. That's BURNINDAYLIGHT, all one word, .substack.com. So for all the Patreon subscribers, you'll get a notification, and I'll even give you a couple months for free to make you come on over. But that's neither here nor there. That's going forward. So we're going forward with the end of this show. Thanks for tuning in. Do appreciate y'all. I've had several comments or messages from listeners as I've got back into this thing. So I appreciate y'all reaching out. If you have any requests for topics to cover or to look into, or some on this day in history stuff, or just whatever stuff that you think I ought to put on this show, send it my way. And thanks everybody again for tuning in. Now move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.